back on the trail, right? We're back on the path, right? I want to talk today about efficiency, right? And, the concept of time is money, right? And that's so very true in life. Now we've probably got wind blowing and it might be affecting the microphone, but I want you to hear this message because this is important. It's going to clear up when we get into the trail a little bit. But time is money, right? That's what everybody says. And look, the job that you have to do. I can look at the house, and the house is a mess, and my wife will go, "We're going to have to stay home all day and do nothing because this house has got to get cleaned up." And I go, "Well, what?" "Oh, well, this table and this counter." I said, "I can have this table and this counter cleared off and cleaned and disinfected and all that in 10 minutes. I can do it in 10 minutes. Something that for her would take seemingly 2 hours, right? Now look, I grew up in the restaurant business. Turnover, as far as turning tables, that's where the money's at. If you serve, 10 people or whatever, and it takes you all day to do that, then you're not going to make any money, right? But if you can serve 10 people, right, and turn those tables and serve 10 more, and then turn those tables and serve 10 more, that is what, that's how you make money. You got to turn those tables. You got to sell as much as you can. And the only way to do that is to be fast and efficient, right? Figuring out a way to do that, if you can save time, if you're bussing tables or something like that, I would keep a rag on the side of my, dish pan or bus tray or whatever. And, I'd boom, 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 put the dishes in, boom, 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 wipe the table, boom, grab the clean silverware, boom, ready to be seated, right? Working fast and efficiently, right? And this applies to everything in life. It's not just restaurants. It's being a musician. It's being a YouTuber. Here's the deal, man. We know that YouTube is largely a numbers game, right? And you've got to put out fresh content. You've got to work at it, right? And look, man, you could easily spend a week, editing one video, shooting and editing one video to get the perfect take. It's like the perfect mix, the perfect guitar solo. I've spent hours and days doing 100 takes of a guitar solo on a record until I got the perfect one. When maybe that first pass that wasn't perfect, but had the vibe, maybe I should have just rolled with that. Imagine back in the days of tape, where guys would get on a binge or a bender, and they'd be in the studio for days working on something, and it was tape, right? So when they recorded over a part, the first take was gone. There would be studio guys who would say, "Hey, I can give you another one, but I'm telling you, that last one was it. And if you record over it, and so that's the reality of it, man. You've got to figure out how to do things fast and efficiently, right? Put out consistently good product, but you got to be quick, man. Figuring out a system like I have for creating videos. here I am, I'm going on a walk, right? Now, most people would just go on their walk, and I know I look probably ridiculous holding a phone and filming myself, but what I'm doing is I'm killing two birds with one stone. And not, I know people probably won't like that old saying, but it's just an old saying, right? You know, getting two things done at one time, right? That's efficiency, right? So I needed to get out. I needed to stop editing today. It's Sunday before Memorial Day. I've been editing for hours, right? And I needed to get out and get some exercise because that's going to help me in the long run, right? But I also need content. Right? I also needed to get content. So why not view every opportunity you can as an opportunity to get things done? And that same efficiency, right? That same speed and tackling a job with speed and great aplomb, you know, whether it was bussing tables or learning songs. You know, I've often talked about on this channel about getting a last minute call to fill in on a gig, and that can be your chance. That could be the last call I got to go on the road. They were literally calling me on a Friday afternoon at like 3:00. And they said, we need a guitar player for this road gig. It's a legacy act. And, you know, we've got the music and we've got number charts. And I said, well, when do you want me to get on the bus? Tonight. And I had a gig that night. And I knew my gig was going to end at 11:00. And I think bus call was at midnight. Me being the grizzled veteran, just couldn't bring myself to go back out there and do that. And I didn't want to be put in a position to where I could potentially fail because I didn't have the time. Didn't have any time. I have to stay up all night in my bunk listening to the tunes and try to play the parts. No, it wouldn't be easy, right? But look, if you're a young buck, that's your chance, man. That's your opportunity to get out there and get on the road and get out of that local bar or whatever and play that gig. And so you've got to figure a way to do things quickly and efficiently. Learning songs. Talked about having to learn 40 songs in a day or 2 days. You know, how do you do that, man? You've got to figure out every single shortcut you can. Look up free charts of the song. Get the chart. If you get a chart, you find a chart for free. Well, that just saved you 30 minutes or 20 minutes or 10 minutes, however long it takes you to chart out a song, depending on how difficult the song is. So there's a way you can make it more efficient. Do that for every song on the song list. If it's a cover gig, chances are somebody's already done the work, and you can just grab the charts, compile them, print them out, do whatever, put them on your iPad or whatever, and there you just saved yourself a couple of hours of time just charting out the basic changes. Once you got a roadmap of the song, and then it's just a matter of getting the parts under your fingers, figuring out a few of the parts. And again, going on YouTube and looking up the song, right? Looking up the song, and somebody else has spent the time and learned the parts, showing you how to play the parts. So that just saved you a whole bunch of other time. It's a lot easier now than it used to be. It's not impossible. Now, back in the day where you'd have to go to the record store and, try and buy the records or hope that the band leader would give you a cassette, board mix of a show or something like that. That's what you used to have to do. Nowadays, people can email you the tracks, email you a board mix. I mean, it's so doable now, right? A task that for many people, it confounds them how you can do that. But if you can figure out how to do things fast and efficiently, like I do on this channel on YouTube, how is it that for the last, I don't know how long it's been since I've been putting out a video every day, for at least, probably for at least 6 or 7 months. I'm just guessing, right? How am I able to do that and build up a member section with 80 some videos in there? Figuring out a way to efficiently do it. Now, this kind of video right here is a prime example of that. This is going to require very little editing. I don't have a script. It's a walk and talk. That's what they call a walk and talk, right? And the reality of that is I'm taking advantage of time. Taking advantage, getting out here, sharing the beautiful Florida sunshine. Maybe we'll see some critters, along the way. But, making the most of the time that you have. And as you get older, man, we've got less time, right? But man, figuring out ways to get things done quickly and efficiently is how successful businesses or successful people, that's how they manage their lives, right? You don't have time to waste. Time is the most valuable thing that you have, right? And the reality is, if you can figure out an efficient way to do something, if you could even invent something that allows other people to save time, then they'll save money. Look at the guy who invented the dishwasher, right? It sure saves me time, having to clean the dishes and then making sure they're sanitary and all that stuff. 'Cause I don't put the dishes in the dishwasher with food on them, but I also don't sit there and scrub the hell out of them and do all this stuff, man. I use the dishwasher. It saves me time, right? If I want to heat up something really quick, well, somebody invented the microwave, right? Which is a way to heat up food and save time. So think about that. Saving time is something that all of us want to do. It's something that will increase your efficiency, right? And make it so you're able to do things, produce things, or get things done quickly. And that's a powerful concept, man. Whether it's, shooting these videos. And again, this is a video that will require very few edits, if any, as long as I don't slip up in this conversation or somebody honk their horn or I stumble or whatever. This video will require very little editing, and that saves time, right? That saves immense time, because here I'm producing a video that's helping people, right? It's helping you to make you realize what you've got to do to be successful. If you need to produce things quickly, and I'll say this, if you're producing music, we've all been guilty of taking extreme amounts of time to finish our music, right? Extreme amounts of time to finish our music. The reality is this, man. The reality is this, especially in the world we live now, where there's very little royalties from producing music. And it seems like it gets less and less each day. the money that can be generated from music, that now you're going to want to be able to produce music extremely fast. Look at, if you watch my interview with the Squirts, right, on my channel, he talks about playing with Rick Springfield. So he gets a gig, Matt Bissonette gets a gig with Rick Springfield, as a sideman. And that's a cool enough gig, right? That's a cool enough gig. And most people would have been happy to be playing the gig, and that would be it. But Matt is a hustler, right? Matt is somebody that gets stuff done. He's figured out how to do things efficiently and get them done at a reasonable amount of time. I'd say a quick amount of time. And his boss, Rick Springfield, had spent enormous amounts of money and enormous amounts of time putting out these albums, and he was selling albums at his show. So it was a profitable thing to do, right? But Matt showed him that he could complete and finish an album of his own group in 40 days, right? And then present him with the product in hand. And Rick listened to it and said, wow, this is good. And so then came the opportunity to say, hey, Rick, if you let me produce your next album, I'll save you $90,000 and we'll have it done in set amount of time. And you know what? That's how he was able to become not just the sideman, not just the bass player in the band and backing vocals and all that, but to become the producer of his music. And when you're producing someone, you can get writer's cuts. You can say, hey, we're going to cut this song. We're going to cut that song. And all of a sudden, your opportunities advance tenfold. Why is that? Because it was fast. Matt's process was fast and efficient, right? It wasn't wasting time. It wasn't putzing around in the studio searching for a guitar sound that maybe doesn't even exist. We've all gone down that rabbit hole. Instead, you should be getting the best tone you can get, super fast, keeping the vibe, keeping the energy level up, and cranking it out, man. That is worth more than beating a dead horse, as they say. And again, this is another phrase that people might not like the phrase. It is a age-old phrase, but when you're in the studio doing take after take after take of the same song, and you're just wasting time and you're wasting vast amounts of money, the reality is this, man. You're just beating yourself up, right? And the end results might sound like a bunch of dudes in the studio beating themselves up. It's not going to be the results that you want. Music should have energy. Music should feel alive, right? And so figuring out a way to record efficiency, figuring out a way to write music efficiently, or write a book efficiently, or shoot a YouTube video efficiently and get it done, that should be your priority in life. Not taking 10 years to produce your masterpiece. Because if it takes you 10 years, well, I think pretty much anybody could make something perfect in 10 years, right? But it takes skill and energy to produce something great quickly and efficiently, right? And then guess what? When you finish it quickly and efficiently, you can very quickly move on to the next project. And that, my friends, is how you get and find success.